Gosh, that never happened when I was a teacher, where the room just kind of quieted down when I was getting ready to talk. But I'll use that as my cue to get started. Uh, Number one, just want to thank all of you for showing up. The more of you that are prepared, the better off we all are. I think about during the Thomas fire, if my neighbor's house caught on fire, our house was going to be in a lot more at risk than if it didn't catch on fire. But the other reason I want to thank you for coming is, more importantly, not more important than your house catching on fire, I suppose, but very importantly, is that the more informed people are about what's going on, et cetera, the more support we have for the good policies we need to address these problems. Because no matter what the problem is in California, there is somebody that is opposed to the change that we need to make things better. And those people are usually pretty good at resisting that change. And the only thing that I found that overcomes that is an informed public that goes, no, that's not right. What you're saying, we do need this particular improvement, et cetera. And certainly, as we have seen in the past, Ventura County is not immune to natural disasters by any means. By comparison to almost every place else in the state, we get it all ways. We get it with the fire, we get it with the flood, we get it with the landslide, and let's hope that with climate change we don't start to get it with hurricanes. But that is an absolute risk as the weather patterns start to change for us. I want to just very quickly here thank Savette Johnson and the County of Ventura for allowing us to use this facility and hosting us tonight. So Savette, I know you're out there someplace. Thank you very much. Savette's back there. Really appreciate it. CEO of Ventura County, and doing a great job for them. Also want to thank Andy Sobel, a council member from the city of Santa Paula, and Selena Zacharias, the president of Port Hueneme. Would you just give us a quick hand there? There's Selena back there, and there's Andy right over there. Thanks a lot for being here tonight. And we have a great program. I just don't know whether we'll be able to get through all of it. All right. We've been ambitious. We know your time is precious. We wanted to get you here, get you what you needed, but you will not be able, any one of these speakers could talk for a half hour about the topics that they have. You won't be able to get all your questions answered today. But what this is we hope, the beginning of you knowing where to go, who to contact, have that contact information. So all of these people will be available afterwards. We'll have a short Q&A after the first part of the presentation on fire, and then the second part of the presentation is broken down mostly into the water issues. We'll have another question and answer period, but both of those are going to be short, and with the number of people here. And by the way, we had over 225 people respond. A bunch of people are also on the internet watching this on Zoom and on the internet at this point in time. So we really appreciate all of that, but we want to address your questions. So we will, at the end of this, do a couple of things. We're going to put up our website, put up our email address so you can send us questions. But tomorrow you will also receive what we're going to call sort of an evaluation response form. We want to know whether this is productive. What can we do to make this more productive? How can we modify this? What was good? What wasn't? So we'll send that out to you tomorrow, and you can use that as an opportunity to say, hey, I still have these 2 questions, and we'll do everything we can to try to get the answers to those questions for you. I want to apologize in advance. We hope that we were going to have the insurance commissioner here, but as I think about it, as big a topic as homeowners fire insurance is right now, we probably would have spent all of our time on that and had very, very difficult time getting to these other things. So we probably will do our best to try to get the insurance commissioner's office back here for a quick, and not for a quick, but for a solo presentation just on homeowners insurance as we go forward. Very briefly, I don't want to belabor the point because I think most of you are pretty informed, but climate change is increasing the risk for us in terms of disasters. With the Thomas fire that we had in 2017, just 7 years ago, right? It was the biggest fire in California's history, nearly 300,000 acres. 7 years later, it's the 9th largest fire in California's history. You can't say there isn't something big changing out there in the environment. And usually after you have a big fire, you're good for a couple of years, and then the vegetation grows back and you get another drought, another tough period, and all of a sudden you're back at it again. So we have no expectations that we're out of wildfire risk simply because we've had some good rains. But here in Ventura County, when we do get out of wildfire risk, it's usually because we have those big, heavy rainstorms that then cause floods, et cetera. We had in 2023, just last year, 18 inches of rainfall in 24 hours in Rose Valley up in Upper Ojai. Imagine that, right? That much water, right, over every square foot of land in Upper Ojai. And all that water has to come down through the Ventura River, out to the ocean. We had 3 inches of rain. Now that was, by the way, a little bit less than an inch of rain per hour. We had 3 inches of rain in an hour, for an hour in Port Hueneme and Oxnard, one of these supercells. They had never experienced that kind of flooding before. It's almost like we need to say no place is immune to having these new kinds of disasters and risk hit us. So we have these great professionals here. I want to get to them. They have a difficult task in that we've given a few of them a huge amount of time, 10 minutes to talk to you, right? And we really appreciate that they've come all the way down from Sacramento for 10 minutes. That's pretty generous on our part, but it's because we want them to make that first contact with you, and they will be available afterwards to answer your questions. But about more than half of the speakers only have 5 minutes. So obviously we're not going to take questions. We're going to get through all of that. We have some people, we had about 30 people submit questions in advance. We're going to go through those and pick out the 2 or 3 questions that were most commonly asked in that, and we'll ask those. We will let you put your hand up, and probably I'll say, good question, ask it on the email tomorrow, et cetera, but we'll try to do the best we can to make this a productive meeting. I will play the uncomfortable role of trying to hold these people to the time limit so that we can get moving. And if there's anything else, let me make sure I got this. Yep, there we go. I think I've handled all of that stuff. So welcome to tonight. And our first speaker is Robin Fenning, and she's the Assistant Director of Hazard Mitigation at the State Hazard Mitigation Officer, Cal OES. Robin, take it away. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Trying to advance the slides. I think we're going to have to do it old-fashioned, Patty. Well, I can introduce myself while we're waiting for that. You don't need to see a title slide. My name is Robin Fennig. I am from Cal OES, fairly new to California, but I've been in the hazard mitigation grant programs for about 13 years.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Robin. Let's see if I can. Up there in the booth, can you help us get to Robin's first slide? And then will you let him know or her know, whoever's up there, when you want to go to your next slide?
Sure.
And what's your first slide say, Robin?
There's a nice Cal OES. There it is.
There
Has
it
my
is.
name on
Great.
it.
All right. Now
And everything. So you guys can know what my name is and how to contact me. We'll go to the next slide. As you can see, we also on the agenda have FEMA here. FEMA is our main partner in emergency management, which includes all phases of emergency management. I'm from the Recovery Directorate, and so I'm going to be covering a few of the main programs. You know, if there is another presidential disaster declaration for the county, some programs that you might hear about or see in the newspaper, on the news, you know, in social media, and then kind of how to navigate those programs within Cal OES, and then talk a little bit about what we're doing big picture as we're kind of reorganizing resilience into my area, which is hazard mitigation. I've got this slide not because I'm like, wow, I just really want to put the most intricate, complicated slide ever, but it's really just to show you that there's a few different disaster declaration processes that work in tandem, depending on the type of event. We always start with the bottom piece, which is the recovery support functions. The blue functions, we're always collecting data. We're always trying to project where folks might be needing recovery resources. So that's going on steady state and in disaster times. From there, we have the California Disaster Assistance Act, which is a state disaster declaration program. You can see it's the fastest and shortest time for a local unit of government to request assistance. Up from there, we have the Fire Management Assistance Grant Program, which is the red slide, or the red part of the slide. That's 14 days from the start of a fire or the threat of a fire. So we've got 14 days for the local units of government to reach out to us, and we can start pre-positioning or starting to assist with fire response. I'll get into that program a little bit more in a second. And then the last, we have a major disaster declaration. That's when you see FEMA gives state, $30 million or something like that. The major disaster declaration typically comes with the most types of disaster assistance, which can be a little bit confusing for folks to navigate. So just up there really just to kind of give the basis of how our programs work. In the Recovery Directorate at Cal OES, we have three main programs. We have the Individual Assistance Program, which is in the Interagency Resource Coordination, or IRC. We have the Public Assistance Program, and then we have Hazard Mitigation. Individual assistance and public assistance are available only after major disaster declarations. And so those are programs where we've got folks from Cal OES going out working either with the folks from your units of government or special districts, or in individual assistance's case, FEMA will send folks to assist in a disaster recovery center to assist you in accessing certain types of assistance that could be made available. The Public Assistance Program is kind of the main flagship program of FEMA. So in catastrophic disasters, if the governor's office requests federal resources through FEMA, FEMA could provide resources to assist state, local, tribal, and some nonprofit governments or nonprofit organizations to play a part in that immediate recovery and some response activities, and especially focused on rebuilding on impacted community infrastructure. So it might include things like removing debris, helping staff emergency services, maybe it's a flood event and there's swift water rescue involved, repairing roads, bridges that might wash out, water facilities or other utilities that are burned in a fire emergency. We also can assist with, sorry, the slides. We also have in the Public Assistance Program, a fire-specific grant program that can help for eligible firefighting costs, which includes everything from field camps or repairing and replacing tools, mobilizing, demobilizing folks to fight fires. And there are individual and cumulative thresholds. So these are programs that are made available to local units of government that are experiencing disasters. Where you might be more interested is in the Individual Assistance Program. The Individual Assistance or IA program provides grant funding and certain types of assistance for folks when they're impacted by a major disaster declaration, and if the president allocates this program to a community. And so it's really focused on that individual or household level recovery. And it includes a variety of different services that will be activated depending on the specific type of disaster. So if a residential area is impacted, there might be housing assistance available. If it's a really big, impactful event, there might be mass care and emergency services that are delivered to a community. If there's some complex legal issues, they might have specific experts come to assist and access folks. If there's a lot of people maybe with trusts or wills or maybe insurance or home ownership documentation, there will be a lot of assistance like that. And so it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all program, and so specific categories, and we at Cal OES are working with the folks in your local units of government to try to assess what services your community could be eligible for in a specific disaster declaration. Those are kind of the main immediate response recovery type programs. I will say the individual assistance program, I think there's a perception that FEMA is going to provide a lot of assistance. Because of the nature of the program, there is kind of a cap of funding, which is depending on what types of categories are available, about just between, we'll say, $40,000 and $50,000, which is not enough to make people whole. And so the average amount of assistance is really between $8,000 and $12,000. So just to kind of make you aware of that. And that's why it's really important that communities start thinking about hazard mitigation, which are long-term independent solutions to reduce the risk to natural hazards. That's kind of how FEMA defines that. We have 3 main programs in the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grant Program. We have a post-disaster program called HMGP, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And then we have 2 national annual competitions that we help communities apply for funding in, which is the BRIC program, which is an annual nationally competitive program for all hazards, and then the Flood Mitigation Assistance or FMA grant program, specifically targeting structures that are insured by the National Flood Insurance Program. Again, these programs are all targeted towards local units of government, special districts, and some private nonprofits, and that they've all participated in a local hazard mitigation planning process. Ideally, we're targeting these long-term risk reduction solutions, and they have to be considered cost-effective. Some sample activities, we can do all hazards for most of these programs, and so we are working with California communities across the state and have done some work in Ventura County already across our hazard portfolio. Earthquake and flood projects tend to be our most sought after funding sources, partially because FEMA is specifically tasked with reducing losses to the National Flood Insurance Program. So we see a lot of flood projects, and a lot of our programs were started with that flood lens in mind, but we are expanding and getting a lot more interest, obviously, in wildfire projects. And I know that our partners at CAL FIRE will be talking a little bit more about what those look like. One other thing that we're really engaged in is local and state hazard mitigation planning. Last year, we updated our state hazard mitigation plan, which sets those statewide mitigation priorities across all 34 hazards that are profiled in the state hazard mitigation plan. Regardless of what language you speak or read fluently, you can get a fact sheet in about, I think, 19 different languages that outlines the state hazard mitigation plan on the Cal OES website. Just Google SHMP or SHMP California, and you should be able to get there and access whatever documents you need to walk through the whole plan. I am going to say one more thing is that if you're looking for a way to get involved, you should be on the lookout for the next Ventura County Hazard Mitigation Plan update. It's a way for you to work with your local emergency managers to help prioritize and understand and also assess the risks to all the natural hazards throughout the county. Your county and most of the communities and special districts are covered until 2027. And so when that happens, you'll be able to, if you would like to familiarize yourself with the current plan right now, oh boy, that went back. You can go to the readyventura.org/county plans, and it'll take you to a nice website. Scroll down a little bit, and it should pop up your local hazard mitigation plan so you can familiarize yourself with the hazards that your officials are assessing. And then you can also take a look at some of the strategies that your specific communities and special districts are undertaking to reduce the risk to natural hazards. Thank you.
Really, really appreciate that, Robin. Thank you very much. So we're going to have this presentation we just had from OES. We'll have another presentation from FEMA, and they will be dealing sort of at big picture level, disaster relief programs, disaster preparation programs. And if you noticed, things like bolting your foundation down, those kinds of things. So if you're interested in those kinds of programs, the Cal OES, and then in a few moments here, FEMA will be the places to go. We're trying to cover both what to do in a disaster and after a disaster, and also how to get ready in preparation. And so our next presenters here, Frank Bigelow, who's from the State Fire Marshal's office, and John Owens is from CAL FIRE, and they'll focus more on defensible space, how to harden your home, et cetera, as we move forward. So we're going to go back and forth some as we move through this program. The other thing is I wanted to mention that disaster preparation for Cal OES and FEMA is both fire and flood and mudslide, and those are the primary things that they end up focusing on. When we hear from Cal Fire, it'll be focused primarily on wildfire preparation. John and Frank?
Great, thank you. And what a great turnout today. I really appreciate the invitation, one, to come to speak to all of you, but really appreciate seeing all the people in the audience that are really taking an effort to get more information about these topics, because as Member Bennett said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it happens again in this area. And you're all taking the first step in being proactive in getting the information you need to be successful in, one, surviving, and two, making your home and your area that you live in more resilient to all the different natural perils that affect this specific area. So again, my name is Frank Bigelow. I'm a deputy director with CAL FIRE out of the Office of the State Fire Marshal, headquartered out of Sacramento. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of overview of who CAL FIRE is. A lot of people think we are just the red flashy things that drive down the road and the things that fly in the air and drop the pink stuff out of the air. But we are a lot more than that. We do have 12,000 personnel now at our peak. We have 356 engines statewide, 60 bulldozers, 155 fire crews of all types across the state of California, 14 air bases, 11 helicopters, 23 S2T tankers that drop 1,200 gallons of retardant. Our new modern helicopters are 12 S70Is that we just acquired, and 4 more on order, 16 OV-10s, which a lot of people call spotter planes. We call them air attacks. And 12 Super Hueys, our previous helicopter fleet that are now reserves, and now 7 C-130 air tankers that we just acquired, one of which just went into service and flew on a fire in San Bernardino for the first time 2 days ago. So we have a tremendous amount of capability, the largest wildfire fighting force in the world, the largest aviation fleet, wildland firefighting aviation fleet in the world. And that's thanks to the investments through California's legislature and the governor's office. And but again, we are a lot more than that. Again, I work out of the Office of the State Fire Marshal, and we focus on things like preparation, preparedness, mitigations, things like defensible space and home hardening, fire hazard severity zones, wildfire prevention grants, ready, set, go, getting people ready ahead of the time when a fire comes. One of the things I want to talk about is, you've probably heard of home hardening. Some people think, does that just mean making my home harder? It doesn't. It means retrofitting our home to make it more resilient to wildfire. And again, what do those words mean? It means things like, if you have single pane windows in your home, upgrading to multi-pane windows. If you had combustible siding on your home, moving to a non-combustible fire resistive siding. If you have wood shake roofs, which is only less than 3% of homes in California, thank goodness, you upgrade to a Class A roof, which means asphalt shingles or concrete or steel. Those types of things are what we mean by home hardening. And a program that is a joint effort between Cal OES and CAL FIRE through a joint powers agreement is what's called the California Wildfire Mitigation Program. And this is a direct financial assistance program that provides up to and around $40,000 to individual homeowners to retrofit their home. We started piloting this program about 2.5 years ago across 5 communities in the state. Kelseyville, Riviera, and Lake County was the first community to receive or to retrofit a home. And that includes defensible space work and retrofitting around the home. In San Diego, they're retrofitting their first homes now. So as this program goes beyond the pilot phase, we will be expanding this program to many, many other areas across the state. And we've built every component related to it, whether it's the outreach, the application portal, the application used to assess the home itself, contractor lists, everything for a local government or a city or county to put money up, leverage hazard mitigation grant dollars to force multiply their money, and do direct financial assistance to homeowners to retrofit homes. So we're really excited about this program and getting it off the ground, which we have after a little bit of time, but excited to get that done. The defensible space 0 to 5 foot law. A lot of you are probably wondering what that's going to look like. What that means is a lot of the things that we know now have around our homes are not going to be allowed to be around our homes anymore. Inorganic and organic materials that will ignite, we put right up next to our home, will burn our homes down. There's no question. All of those things that we like to set next to our home for convenience are what are burning homes down. We're going to need to move those things. One of the biggest things is wood bark mulch right up next to your home. That will burn your house down. Trash cans, a lot of times wind blows the trash can lid open. All the things we put in the trash burn very readily. Embers get inside there, they catch on fire, they're right next to the house, they get under the eaves, they burn the house down. The list goes on and on and on of those things. So as we move into what those regulations will look like, they will first go into effect for new construction. And then the way that the current law is written, depending on if a new bill is signed by the governor, 2 years after the implementation of the built environment, it will go into effect. If the law, Senate Bill 504 is signed, a Dodd bill, it would be 3 years. So there is some time for all of us to adjust to this, myself included. And I'll have to give you a little anecdotal story about my parents. I told my parents about this. My dad said, "The heck we are." And I don't know, my dad is a former assembly member for the state of California. And he's like, "We paid a lot of money for that landscaping and I'm not getting rid of it." And my mom went, "Yes, I now get to fix that and put a patio out there that I've wanted forever." So the emotions run the gamut in every household, and we understand that. But the science is clear. That first 5 feet around our home is critical to being resilient to wildfire. So as much as painful as it may be for some of us to lose some of that ornamental vegetation that we have around our homes, it is necessary. And just I'm going to end with this because I'm going to pass to Chief John Owens for just kind of tie in some local stuff here. Our wildfire prevention grants program for the members district over the last 5 fiscal years has given this local area in the district $24,822,000 from our wildfire prevention grant program. So that's gone direct financial assistance in this area to do fuels work and other types of work. So just wanted to make reference to that, Member Bennett, and I'll pass it to Chief Owens.
Good evening, everybody. My name's John Owens. I'm the unit chief for the San Luis Obispo unit. And you're probably wondering, why is San Luis Obispo here? This is Ventura County. Well, the reason why I'm here is because CAL FIRE does have a presence in Ventura County at Camarillo, our Ventura Training Center, and the Camarillo California Conservation Corps Fire Center. So we have the 2 fire centers, and we have, depending on staffing, anywhere between 6 and 8 hand crews that work here in Ventura County, fire hand crews. But also Ventura County is what we call a contract county, and San Luis Obispo unit is the administrative unit of the of Ventura County contract county, which what that means is that the state of California pays the Ventura County to do the state's work in the county. We fund fire stations, helicopters, bulldozers, and fuels crews in Ventura County. But then again, we also have our own fire center. And that fire center works very closely with Ventura County Fire in particular, but other communities for fuels reduction programs throughout the county. And we really appreciate the partnership that we have with Ventura County and also the other communities in the county, because if you think about wildfire affects us all. Wildfire doesn't care about any political boundaries whatsoever. And no county community is an island. So we have to be able to work together, which we do. In California is our mutual aid system is world renowned. And we capitalize upon that by working together for fuels reduction and vegetation management programs. And here in Ventura in particular, my hand crews have worked with the county fire on a climate workforce project, which is located in Ventura and Los Angeles County, what's called a mutual threat zone, which is in the Chatsworth, Box Canyon, Bell Canyon area. And that was supported by a $3 million grant. And that work is continuing through March of 2025. The Ventura Steelhead Preserve Vegetation Management Program burn, and there's a lot more. And if you go to our website, the CAL FIRE website, you can go and look at all these projects and get even more detailed information.
Hey, thank you very much, Frank and John, and pardon my informality in the first names. I hope that's all right with you guys. I do want to emphasize one thing, and that is of the things that have been presented, hearing about the fact that we all will have to adjust to new defensible space regulations. And if you think about it, we're all in it together. Climate change is getting worse, so what's going to happen to insurance claims? They're going to go up. And we will all have to pay more. The more we all do to decrease those claims, the more we all benefit. And if there's anything that we have to think about in terms of us all being in it together. So it really is incumbent upon us all to sort of embrace this idea. And I really appreciate Frank pointing that out now, and that we have 3 years to get ourselves ready. But we do need to start thinking hard. And for some people, it's going to take considerable time to figure out how they're going to make those adjustments. So tonight is sort of the first announcement of that for some of you to hear, but it will come. And I know I have some interesting conversations with my wife that we'll have also about what's going to happen with that. Our next presenter is Casey DeSong, and he's from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Appreciate you being here, Casey. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Bennett, for having me here. And fortunately, I didn't have to travel all the way down from Sacramento today. Only had to come down from Oakland, but I'm happy to be here nonetheless. So I work for FEMA, and our office is in Oakland. And as federal agencies go, we are a relatively small agency. We're about 6,000 full-time employees, and we supplement our full-time employees with reservists when we have a disaster. Probably 90% of the incidences that occur nationwide and within the state never rise to the level of getting FEMA's involvement. The way FEMA gets involved with the disaster is that if there is an incident, a fire, flood, hurricanes now, I guess in California, if it's beyond the combined efforts, if it's beyond the efforts of state and local response efforts, the governor can make a request to the president for a federal disaster declaration. And if granted, then FEMA can come in. And even though we are a small agency, what our role is in a disaster is we're able to task other federal agencies to provide assistance. And as Robin had mentioned earlier, we don't come in and take over. We're always in a supportive role of the state. And the state tells us, hey, we need some assistance with, we need medical doctors in this area. And so if that's the case, we can task the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to provide some of their, there's a flyer flying around here, I'm sorry. It's a pesky guy. Yeah. So we can task to bring in medical doctors, or if there's a hazmat spill or something and we need EPA to come in and provide some assistance, we can task EPA to come in and do that. Or if we need debris removal assistance, we can task the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to help provide that type of assistance. Once we move out of the response phase, as Robin had mentioned, we do have several recovery programs that can help individuals, and I won't go into details. Robin had did a great job of providing an explanation of those. But we do have those programs, but all of those, the two recovery programs that we have, the public assistance and individual assistance, and there's a hazard mitigation grant program. All those programs are dependent upon a disaster declaration. If there's no disaster declaration, those programs do not become eligible. So we're here to talk about resilience, and so knowing that not every incident is going to be declared, and it's not going to involve FEMA. FEMA as an agency is still trying to work with communities to help increase resiliency, even though so that if there's something bad happens and FEMA is not available or doesn't rise to the level of FEMA's involvement, you still have the tools, and you've taken steps to be resilient no matter what hazard you find yourself up against. And FEMA's taking it as a three-prong approach. First is our tools. We have a set of tools that we make available to the public. We have what we call risk maps, where you can go online and you can review the flood maps in your area to determine, if you're in a flooding area, you can determine, what level of flooding area are you susceptible to. There's also planning tools available for communities to help plan around flood risk with our flood risk maps. We also, the second approach, or second prong we use is through grants. We have several other mitigation grants that are not dependent upon disaster activity. There is a BRIC grant, which is the stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, as well as a Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant. And both of those grants are not dependent upon disasters. They're funded annually by Congress. And so communities can apply for these grants, and these are for projects that will help lessen the impact of any future disasters, such as home hardening, retrofitting homes, widening culverts to allow water to flow much easier. And while there are FEMA programs, it's not FEMA that administers it. It's actually the state of California, Cal OES, that administers these programs. The funding comes primarily from FEMA, but it's Cal OES that administers these programs, and it's through Cal OES that communities like Ventura would apply for these types of grants. And then the third prong is public education. We try to participate in as many of these events such as this, public events, to help share information about resilience and steps that you can take to become more prepared for a disaster. We have several websites online that are excellent resources for homeowners, renters, and individuals like you and I. To learn more about disasters and how to prepare for them. The first website I'd like to share with you is called the ready.gov website. On this website, it lists every type of disaster, every type of hazard out there, steps that you can take to prepare for those hazards, how to identify those hazards. And if you haven't visited that website, I highly encourage you to do that, because it is a very, very good and robust website to help you learn more about the hazards that are in and around the areas where you live. We also have a FEMA app that you can download onto your phone or electronic devices, where you can stay up to date on get local alerts, and if there are there's other disaster preparedness tips on the FEMA app, and if there does become a declared disaster, you would be notified via the app, and it also provides listings of where shelters are located locally to where you're located, as well as other resources that FEMA can bring into a disaster should that occur. So lastly, let me conclude here with the call to action for everyone. I was going to say the steps that you guys could take to ensure that your homes and your places that you live are more resilient. And one of the first things I was going to mention was the stuff that Frank had mentioned. So I'm not going to go over that again. Frank did an excellent job of explaining that, but I will just add on top of that is your insurance. Check your insurance. Make sure that your insurance is adequate. You don't want to find out after a disaster that you didn't have enough insurance to cover your home and your personal property. If you live in a flood hazard area, flood insurance, make sure you have flood insurance, and you can purchase flood insurance through your local provider. It's backed by our national flood insurance program, but that's another excellent resource that help you recover after if you should find yourself in a bad situation after a disaster. So with that, I will conclude, and we'll stand by for questions.
Thank you very much, Casey, and I appreciate you being right on time. When he mentioned, download the FEMA app, I don't think before I moved to Ventura County, I would be downloading a FEMA app as one of the things that, I would be focused on. But quite frankly, living here in Ventura County, it makes a lot of sense to download the FEMA app because it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when we're going to have these disasters. Our next speaker is Joe Morelli, and he's the equivalent to Frank, only at the county level. He's the fire marshal for the county fire department. And just like the state is coming up with an ordinance for defensible space, we have a local ordinance in terms of defensible space. And so we will have Joe talk to us about that and the other issues that he's prepared to give us here. So Joe, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'm going to share with you what's being done at the local level as far as preparedness and response. Very quickly, just an overview of our department. I won't read everything on the slide here, but what you can know is that you have protecting this community every day, 33 stations in 5 battalions. We run over 53,000 calls per year. We have 623 total personnel protecting this community each and every day. We are an all-hazard full-service department, and this includes everything that you see up here: medical, fire, hazmat, anything that could happen in this county, this fire department responds to. In addition to our emergency response, specifically for wildfire, we have additional resources. We have air suppression. We have 2 Firehawk helicopters. We have dozers. We've increased our hand crews from 2 to 4 recently. And as has been mentioned, we have mutual threat zone agreements with LA County, LA City, and we have an outstanding mutual aid program throughout the county and the state. So I mentioned that we're an all-hazard response agency. As a fire marshal, my focus is for us to also be more of an all-hazard preparedness and mitigation agency as well. And we've taken some measures. Over the years, I'm going to share a couple of the things that we've done that have changed here in the county, specifically when it comes to wildfire. Overall, our goal when it comes to wildfire is we want to reduce ignition potential, limit fire behavior in the event of a fire, and we want to maintain access, and we want people to get out safely. Those are our overall priorities. We do this through effective response and community risk reduction programs, which I'll share with you. One of those, it's our vegetation management program. This program focuses on the areas that are over 100 feet away from a structure. It's establishing community fire breaks, vegetation removal and modification. We maintain roads, 340 miles, fire, utility, and ranch roads for fire access, and again, also assist with egress. In 2023, we implemented 335 acres of fuel reduction projects, 70 community chipping events, and all of these efforts are meant to reduce the fuel loads in the community, which improves safety for the community and for our responding firefighters. So this is everything that is over 100 feet from the structure. And we also have a program that's focusing on that first 100 feet. Oh, sorry, let me go back. And so our second program that I want to mention, our fire hazard reduction program, it's focused on the first 100 feet. Arguably, this is the most important zone. Everything that we're doing is important. We're doing it for a reason. But that 0 to 5 foot distance that you heard Chief Bigelow talk about, we have here already in the county. We've implemented a requirement just through local ordinance for every building, any new landscaping to have that 0 to 5 foot zone. We have a program where we inspect 19,000 parcels annually throughout the county. Our defensible space ordinance is currently more restrictive than state law, and we enforce the full 100-foot defensible space zone. Another program that we have, or that we support really, is in conjunction with our partners with CAL FIRE, NFPA, it's FireWise USA. This program is more of a community-led program that we support. It involves an application process for communities and a commitment to do wildfire mitigation in the community with volunteer hours put towards projects to reduce fuel. It's typically limited by the number of homes that you can have in one community, so it's meant for smaller communities. In the last 14 months, we have supported an additional 16 FireWise communities. So we had 2 of these communities 14 months ago, and now we have 18, and that's through really a community-led effort, but with support from the fire department, from CAL FIRE as well. The second thing that we have pursued and now have the designation of in the county is a fire risk reduction community. We're one of 50 communities in the state that now have this designation. And both of these together, they do 2 things. They reduce the risk in the community, mitigate the hazard, and potentially, in some cases, also can result in insurance savings. And then our partnerships. What we can't do alone, we partner with other agencies to do. And so we have close working relationships with our 5 fire safe councils in the county, resource conservation districts, and I could probably give you a list of maybe 10 other things we need to do, but this is what we're doing right now, and I'm going to stay within my 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Joe, I have 2 quick questions for you. One, you mentioned the 100 feet defensible space. There's a different standard for the 95 feet that's left over than there is for the 0 to 5, correct?
Correct. So 0 to 5, we love concrete, we love rock. Anything else in that first 5 feet, anything that can burn, we don't want it there, and neither do you.
And then
Hopefully.
from 5 feet out to 100 feet, give us a rough idea of the basic standards there.
So from 5 feet to 30 feet, that's where you would have grasses. Typically, you want to have your grasses down, trimmed to within 2 inches. You don't want to have heavy vegetation in that zone. And between 30 and 100 feet, you want to have thinned out fuels. You don't want to have ladder fuels that could lead a fire from the ground up into the trees, which we have seen here before in the county. It's called crowning, when the fire gets up into the trees. And when I say that we're more restrictive than through our ordinance, what I mean by that, with a 100-foot distance, we're not only looking at your property, but we're looking at the neighbor's property, and we're making sure that everyone is providing that 100-foot from their neighbor's property.
And can you tell us, what does the fire department do if people are, if they just let their weeds grow, et cetera, in that 100-foot area?
So 90, I'd say well over 99% of what we do is education. And of these 19,000 parcels, we get voluntary compliance from the community. Sometimes it takes multiple inspections or notices. In very rare occasions, I think last year we had 8 out of 19,000 that had to have the fire department do the clearance, and then that resulted in the cost for that being added to the property tax bill of a homeowner. But that was 8 of 19,000, so mostly education and community
So
support.
the fire department's serious, though, that this will get done one way or the other?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, we'll have the interesting interaction between the state ordinance and the local ordinance. Do you see any challenges in that interaction between the state and the local ordinance?
What I see is support, the work that's being done at the state level. There's some things that we can do at the local level through ordinance before it happens at the state level. When the state ends up adopting or has a statewide requirement, it actually helps all of us, because then we have a consistent standard across the state. And one of the things we hear in the fire department is, well, I lived in this other county and they're not making me do this. So the more consistency we have, the better it is. And as has been mentioned, none of us are isolated. If you have a fire start in one county, it could easily spread to another county. So everyone has a stake in this.
Great. Up here at the top of Joe's slide here, it refers to 5 fire safe councils. Those are new organizations in Ventura County, and one of our goals here today is to introduce the fact that we have 5 fire safe councils, and one of the fire safe councils is here, and they will be not our next speaker, but the speaker after that. So we're trying to give you sort of an overview of the landscape in terms of all the organizations, from FEMA and Cal OES all the way down to fire safe councils that are actually working, trying to make sure that there's a proper exit strategy for people out of Ojai, that what can people do in various communities have various challenges. So looking forward to hearing that. But we do want to hear from Sabrina Asian, and she's going to talk to us about the American Red Cross and the steps they take to help people prepare for disaster, and then what they do when the disaster hits. But preparation is what we're trying to focus on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you taking your time and after a busy day to be here this evening and learn something, hopefully. I want to thank the Assemblymember as well as his team for organizing this important and informative event. As the Assemblymember mentioned, I'm Sabrina Ashton. I am the director of the California Environmental Legislation Clinic at UCLA that's housed within the Emmett Institute on Climate Change and the Environment. But I'm speaking to you all this evening as the board vice chair for the American Red Cross for this region, which is the Pacific Coast region. And this is the perfect time to be speaking with all of you, because September is our disaster preparedness month. And so we really are trying to get out there, get the message out about being prepared for disasters, because as everyone has mentioned, it's not if it happens, but when something happens. And so we want to provide you with the tools and the resources so that you're able to protect yourself and your loved ones when disaster strikes. As the Assembly member mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, the climate crisis is real, and we are seeing really extreme weather events. That includes, as you're all well aware of, many of the extreme heat days, floods, fires, and many other devastating circumstances. The Red Cross is seeing twice as many wildfires and disasters than we were 10 years ago, and that is all large-scale disasters. And so, there really is a change happening that we need to be aware of and protect ourselves from. I also want to point out that we work with all of the others that you've mentioned that are here this evening, and we really want to support other agencies, all of the local government agencies in our work, and so we're made up mainly of volunteers, so we're 90% volunteer-based, and that means that it's community members within our own community, your neighbors and friends, who are volunteering their time so that they can participate in helping all of you when disaster strikes. So I'm going to quickly run through some slides, and then I will be around after if anyone has any questions or wants to get involved with the Red Cross. I'm sure you're all well familiar with our mission, so I'm going to skip ahead because I really do want to make sure to get to some of the tools that you can use. So this is some of the ways that we're helping on a national and global level. These are some of the ways that we have been helping in our region, and the Pacific Coast region encompasses San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County. So these are some of the ways that we have been helping within our own community. And as you're probably aware, our mission is to deliver care during life's darkest moments. And so 2.5 million people in the US were displaced from their homes last year due to disasters. And so one of the main things that we do is provide shelters and disaster relief efforts, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. I have a lot of slides, but I'm going to quickly go through to get to the point. But I do want to just stop on this slide for a moment because I think that's something we don't often think about, is that climate-caused disasters disproportionately affect those who have pre-existing social inequities, so a lot of the environmentally burdened areas. And so we are really taking a lens of looking at this and making sure that we can be protecting all communities in our society. These are some of the services that we provide should you need. We provide safe shelters, and so what we do is we work with the local government agencies to determine if a shelter needs to be set up, and if and when it does, we then can provide we can then provide volunteers who are going to house people, warm meals, mental health support, emotional support for those who have been displaced, and financial assistance to help people get back on their feet. Because of all of the national infrastructure that we have set up and all of the supplies that we have ready to go, all of the training that we have been provided with, we're ready to go on a moment's notice to provide these shelters. And so we put them up very quickly when there is a need. And the one thing I do want to point out about this is that we also are shelters that include the entire family, including pets. I know that's often a big concern for people as to where they're going to go with their pets. I've mentioned this a few times, but we're disaster ready 24/7. We have been trained to mobilize on a moment's notice anywhere that we have to be, and we can scale up as needed. We also do a lot, like tonight's event, of preparing communities to stay safer from disasters, so what we can do in advance. So the things that I really want you to take away is I hope that you will consider putting together some sort of go bag or to-go kit if disaster strikes. The things that I really want to stress that you should be putting in that is a little bit of food and water to have enough for 3 days. But the big things to be aware of are any medications that you take, having the prescription for the medication, as well as enough medication to last you should pharmacies be closed. If you have pets, bring leashes, bowls, those sorts of things. If you have young children, you want to have formula, diapers, things like that on hand. So make a bag that works well for within your you and your loved ones what you need. Also, write down some phone numbers because in the digital age, we don't know anyone's phone number. And if phone lines are down or systems are down, you might not be able to access your contacts. So write down some of those important numbers. That might be loved ones because we might not know our own loved ones' phone numbers anymore, as well as, doctors or any sort of anybody that you would need to get a hold of, and then make a plan as to if there's a place you're going to meet or how you're going to get a hold of one another should something happen while people are gone. I think I'm done, almost done. Just want to say ways that you can get involved with us is to volunteer, to donate, and also to give blood. We're in a critical blood shortage. I know I'm getting the hook. And then this is the one thing I just want to make sure to leave you with is the Red Cross emergency app. I would very highly recommend downloading that. I know we've all been talking about our apps. I think it's very helpful to, you'll get alerts if there is a disaster, where shelters is going to be put up in your area, and just other advice as to what to do. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. We're trying to give you a smattering of everything, but volunteer organizations are a huge part of our disaster response, and they also help with disaster preparation. Our last speaker in this part of the session is Stephen Watson. He's with the Ventura Regional Fire Safe Council, a new set of organizations that have developed here in Ventura County in the last 5 years or so. Stephen?
Thank you, Assemblymember, and thank you for having us here and putting this together. It's awesome to see everyone coming here and learning and seeing what they can do. As the Assemblymember mentioned, we're the Ventura Regional Fire Safe Council. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and our goal is to essentially prepare Ventura County and its communities for wildfire. So we've heard a little bit from our federal and state agencies, our Ventura County Fire Department, Red Cross, and all that they're doing to help out. I'm going to shake things up a little bit, and I'm going to talk about what you guys can do, how the community can be involved, and how we're going to help you be involved. So anyone who knows me knows that I can talk forever, so I'm going to set my timer and do Atticus a little bit of a favor here. That's not what my timer says. I'll say I'm a bit biased, but our Ventura County Fire Department, they're incredible. They're basically the best fire department in the world. However, we've seen in these catastrophic events that they can't be everywhere at once. We get these wind-driven fires that are just devastating, and they can't be at every home, and that's why we need your help. We need you to be involved, and I'm going to tell you how you're going to be involved and how we're going to help you be involved. So I got to figure out how this thing works. All right. So we have a lot of programs that we offer. We're grant funded, so everything we offer is no cost to the community. All of our services are free, but I'm gonna focus on one in particular, and you'll see up there, it's Firewise Community Development. So you heard a little bit about Firewise USA. I'm gonna go into it a little bit more. And it's basically a framework that engages, involves, motivates the community to do their part and play their part in wildfire preparedness. So what are some of these steps? What does that look like? I think Ventura County Fire Department, the fire marshal mentioned there's an application process to it. There's a recognition process to it. We're now at 18. We were at 2 last year. What's really cool is I actually see a few Firewise community leaders in the audience. So it's really cool to see it shaping up. I'll say that other steps to it include creating an action plan. There's a risk assessment for your community. There is that application process. There's tracking your investment, but we're here to help. We're gonna make it digestible. We're gonna walk you through it. And ultimately, the whole community will be safer because it's not just about having one home safe, because if your neighbor's house catches fire, you're in big trouble. So we've got to do this on a community level. So I hope that all of you will kind of take this as a call to action. Talk to us. We have a table outside with some resources. We're the big green table with all those resources on it. We've got an incredible staff, one of them here in the audience right now. She's great and will help you out. I'll also say that I can predict the future a little bit, and we've heard a bit already, but insurance is a big topic. I'm sure there are questions on insurance. I'm sure there are concerns. I see blood pressure rising when I just mentioned that word. A lot of what we're offering and what we do does impact insurance. Firewise USA Communities impacts insurance. we've heard anywhere from a 3% reduction in rates to a 21% reduction in rates. Sometimes people are just happy to keep their insurance because they're afraid of losing it. Chief Bigelow mentioned their capacity and their equipment, and I'll say that we've got a small team. They have more helicopters than we have staff. So when you guys call in, we'll do the best we can. We'll help out. We'll be there for you, walk with you every step of the way. We're a grassroots organization. And also some of the other programs that we have that have been mentioned are home retrofits, home hardening, defensible space. We can send someone out to your property, walk around with you, give you a report, tell you some of the things that you can do to make your home a little bit safer. We have limited resources to be able to provide defensible space assistance and home retrofit assistance already now. So call us, reach out to us, and also check to see if there's local fire safe councils in your area. There's one in Ojai, Bell Canyon, Oak Park, and Ventu Park. And we work collaboratively with them on just about everything. And Ventura County Fire is also a great partner for us as well. So I want to leave you with that call to action. And I'm urging you all to reach out to us. We will help. We will tell you what you can do and give you some advice and guidance along the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It always takes longer than you think to move through the program. And so we have water, and we have water experts here, and we want to make sure that we try to end this close to the appropriate time. So instead of doing our question and answer session, which you can imagine with all these people here, we would barely touch in terms of questions and answers. We have 30 questions that have come in, and we have reviewed those 30 questions in advance. Those are ones that were sent to us by email. Many of those questions are very specific. What are you going to do to solve X problem in Silver Strand, right? Well, that's, we won't take that time, but we're happy to try to answer those questions and work with county officials, whoever it is. So if you have those specific questions. But I'd like to use the couple of minutes we have in this question and answer to try to emphasize what is best in my mind for us to do in Ventura County. And that is for us to lower the risk for us to have serious life and death problems, accidents, and also the huge financial costs that come from these things. And if we can lower that risk, we literally can lower our home insurance policies here in Ventura County. They've literally, there are things insurance companies are looking at. Do you have a proper fire safe plan? They talked about the local plan that you could go look at. How robust is that plan? How much is the county enforcing those things? I'll tell you, one of the things that for a long time worked in Ventura County, we were one of the few places that had the 100 feet defensible space and also enforced it. Lots of people had it, but didn't have the courage to enforce it. But our fire department was very vigilant about trying to enforce that. Went out and imagine 19,000 places that have 100-foot clearance of the most hazardous fire risk that's around there has a dramatic impact. So we used to have wildfires over and over again. And I used to be really so delighted when the fire department would say, well, we had that big wildfire and we lost 2 sheds, 1 outhouse. We don't lose any major structures at all. That's changed, and we have to change, but we can do that. And so I just encourage us to try to be out there and take as proactive of a position as possible for the benefit of all of us. Other thing I'll mention is probably the biggest thing coming down the road is the home hardening aspect. There will soon be maps out there that will identify high wildfire risk areas. When those maps come out, people in those high wildfire risk areas are likely to see even higher insurance rates, when those maps come out. And one of the ways that people will be able to lower, I believe, in the long run, will be able to lower their rates is to demonstrate they've really hardened their home. On my street, during the Thomas fire, I ended up having to stay there. All 5 houses across the street from my house burned down. all 4 houses on my side of the street caught on fire. Every one of those houses burned down from spot fires starting in their yard. Not one house burned down because a wall of flame came through, like you do see, up in Northern California when you're in the forest. You don't have a chance there. That's not a spot fire. That's just roaring in. Now, spot fires do jump ahead there. But in our location, many of us, it's the spot fire that is the big risk. And if you can take care of all those spot fire risk, you can really help yourself and therefore your neighbors. When you've got 60-mile-an-hour winds, it doesn't take a very big ember to start, and pretty soon your whole house is on fire. So those are the things that we have. I hope that if you have questions, you'll send them to us tomorrow morning, or catch these people if you have questions for FEMA, Cal OES, the State Fire Marshal, Ventura County Fire Marshal, Red Cross, or the Ventura Fire Safe Council. And with that, we're going to make the transition to the water part of our program. So if our water panelists would move up, and if our esteemed people here, but yeah, let's give them a big hand. Right?
Yeah, I guess we should probably take them.
And hopefully, the water panelist seats will be available for for everybody else here. So we have seats for you men and women that just spoke right here in front. These are all reserved seats for you here. So feel free, Robin and everybody else, if you want to come down here, right?
Oh, no, that was great. I learned so much. I was writing notes. Yeah, no, that was.